So, welcome to Coinversation with OCT. We're back with another episode, and joining us today we have Anna Sort, the head of growth at GFAL, where they're not just growing a company, but they're revolutionizing the gaming industry. With a passion for community driven growth and a knack for making big ideas accessible, Anna is here to share insights on how GFAL is setting new standards in gaming and beyond. Anna, welcome to the show. How have you been today?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. The pleasure is all ours. And thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. So we'll just kick off this podcast slash interview. And the first question I have for you is that, uh, of course, your journey into crypto must be fascinating. And could you, share how you got started and give us an overview of what GFAL is all about and how you got into the crypto space?
Sure. I wish I could say that my journey in crypto was fascinating. It's really not. I got started in 2019 when all the hype, just before the hype came around. And for me, it was more of like seeing the good side of crypto, having this coin that's not controlled by any governments. There's no interest behind it, on like capitalism and all that. And also for the transaction side, obviously not having a bunch of middlemen doing, taking each cut from transactions and going through banks and all of that stuff. I thought that was the interesting part from when it comes to crypto. And that's when I started to get involved. And later on, we had the boom of the NFTs, which at the beginning, I think it was a lot more interesting because we were starting to think about, okay, so we can own this digital asset in like a truth and verified manner. But I think although the NFTs, sort of when they started, it was very exciting. I think part of it's that where you release the technology makes sense. So for me, it was where on earth or where in the technologies that we have nowadays would it make sense to have this ownership of these digital assets. And obviously video games was the first answer that you have, because at the time I was playing League of Legends, and like many of you guys probably had like an account with a bunch of skins, but I was not playing the game and had not been playing the game for like a couple of years by then. So it started thinking, what if I owned those items and they were for me to trade or sell or do whatever I wanted when I finished playing the game or whenever I decided to quit the game, right? And that's how sort of I ended up with GFAL, because those two aligned. And regarding the second question on like what is GFAL all about, so I think GFAL is like so much more than just a video game company. So to give a bit of context, 2022, the video games industry was reaching a saturation point. So there were a lot of games coming out, right? That made acquiring new users for these games even more expensive because there was so much people fighting for the same viewer or user, right? So, and also we also had at the same time the rising concerns with privacy. So privacy policies were also being a lot more strict, making it a lot harder to find the good users at a smaller price. So, and also with the having a lot of games, what happened was that players would feel like a lot of these games were just copycats. So like the same game with like a different skin. So I think this is where we kind of lacked value. And what GFAL was trying to do, or how GFAL wanted to change that moment, was by using, by creating a new model where you had the innovation, you had the social interaction, and you had the real ownership. And those was not just like a way of like patching crypto into a game, just like this is the new thing, okay, let's do it. It was more like rethinking about how the gaming economies will work in the future and why it was necessary to do this change. So for me, GFAL is more than just like a response to the current industry challenges, which remember is saturation of the games, user acquisition cost, but it's like the next evolution of what we want to expect and see in gaming.
Awesome. Yeah, that actually makes sense because we remember like me and Sahil are actually um, gamers ourselves, we love to play Web 2 games, Web 3 games. Like I play Web 3 games myself. I have played Elemental Raiders myself, so I know what you're talking about there. And yeah, the ownership of skins is actually a big issue in Web 2. So yeah, that actually makes sense. And yeah, I guess we can go ahead with the second question, Sahil.
Yeah, sure. I had a question, but Anna answered it in the first answer itself, so I'll move on to the next one. So as Anna, as you mentioned, blockchain and Web3 are technologies that we can say it broke the privacy concerns or the concerns and the saturation of the market in 2022. A lot of things were happening in the gaming industry, but I want to go deeper into how GFAL is leveraging these technologies, Web3 and blockchain in particular. How is GFAL leveraging them, and how is your token utility strategy different from, let's say, the already existing crypto projects or different projects in the gaming industry as a whole?
Okay, so the thing is, with Web3, the Web3 space, we have a little problem, which is this whole cycle of hype and flops, right? And we're sort of building this culture of what's next. What's the next big? Where's the next big coin? Or where's the next big thing that I can make a quick buck? You know, and then people kind of wonders why the market doesn't really move into a healthier direction. And it's because of this culture of what's next, and where do I put my money so it make some profit, and then I'm out. New coins appear dearly a year. With the meme coins, we've had a bunch of meme coins appearing in just those last few months, right? And in this environment, like the true builders and innovators aren't always the ones that are rewarded, unfortunately. And so I think the way GFAL is doing things differently is not adding blockchain to the games for the buzz of we're doing blockchain, but we add blockchain where it actually means that's a benefit for the player. And this is why we have the utility token, to allow these players to do their global transactions without like bankings in between, or like the restrictions of their maybe regulations that they have locally or whatever. So this is why we sort of put blockchain in a way that makes sense and that is for players first. And also, when you say Web3, obviously it comes with like the play to earn, a hype, or the NFTs, and it's like, okay, but where does it make sense? Because we want to build something that's sustainable. We're at GFA, we're building something that's robust and that it's just player driven marketplace and collectibles that are able to sustain value in long terms. We're also focusing on like long-term engagement for our players. It's very important for us that this ownership that we give our players goes through, not just with, as we were saying, the skins on League of Legends, like I own them, I'm able to trade them, but we go actually a little bit further, and we want to stay away from sort of like speculation, at least not in a way for like a hype and a flop. If someone comes to join us, is because they are looking into entering like a sustainable ecosystem that they can be in for years, right? And so we're not chasing the next big hype cycle. We're building a sustainable ecosystem where we put players first, and where their benefit is what matters to us.
All right, makes a lot of sense. I would agree that most of the projects, especially gaming, they're looking for the next big cycle and maybe cashing out, maybe not directly cashing out, but in a way cashing out, right? So as you mentioned, your plan and GFAL as a whole, the culture is to promote long-term user engagement and retention. So what have been the biggest roadblocks or blockers that you faced so far, that okay, this is a problem that we need to solve in the Web3 gaming industry, and if this happened, I think we'll be on to a long-term user engagement. So are there any roadblocks or blockers that you would like to mention that GFAL is particularly trying to solve here?
Okay, so regarding the challenges, we've definitely faced a few challenges on our ends. But first, on arguably one of the biggest hurdles that we had, and you'll get it in a minute. Depending on who you talk, the market perception is such a great burden in a way. So you have people that you say blockchain games or Web3 gaming, and immediately they think, oh, this is unsustainable, this can't be, this is a Ponzi, or this is a hype and flop kind of project. But then you also have the ones that you mentioned, you mentioned Web3 gaming, and they are like, oh, you know, play to earn and all these frenzy. So I think what we're trying to do with GFAL is demonstrating that Web3 gaming can serve players and also be sustainable, which is something that we haven't really seen maybe yet in Web3 gaming from like a sustainability point of view, especially. And beyond that, there's obviously regulatory compliance, which is a huge hurdle as well. When I think one of the things that the founders have shared with us many times is that when they started this business, they didn't realize it, but they were actually building two businesses at the same time, because you have the token business and then you have the video game company business. And I think those taking on that huge workload for the without really realizing them in the beginning, especially because, as you know, the laws in the beginning were a little bit gray. It was a lot more gray than it is nowadays. So the amount of bureaucracy and the efforts to meet these standards, especially for this 2024, where Europe and all these other countries have been gearing up and preparing for what's cryptocurrencies and Web3 space, has taken a lot of time from what would be the company and the video game creation and whatnot. But the good thing is that we are of utmost regulatory, and we've done our homework, and we are definitely not getting shut down by any regulatory issues, as we are in European standards, which, as you guys know, is the highest standards you can hold yourself to. So that's great. And finally, the user experience. I mean, we cannot deny that Web3 is complicated, it's complex. We don't want players to actually have to worry about MetaMask or setting up a wallet or how do I buy crypto and all that stuff, right? We wanted people to just be able to enjoy the game and to make it as easy as possible for them, so they are just doing another microtransaction rather than, you know, the blockchain. So yeah, that's definitely something else. Oh, and another challenge for you guys is that, and this is a good one. When we started doing this, there was a lot of like creation of digital in-game assets, whether you call them, we call them personally collectibles, but there's a potential problem there, which is when you start creating a lot of in-game assets, you want sort of to create scarcity for those assets to be able to maintain value, right? But how it works is that as you flood your game with collectibles, with in-game assets, it causes, the inflation. So it's very hard to maintain the value of all of those assets, especially the ones that are repeated, right? So we've tackled this issue with I think we call the fusion mechanics. So how fusion mechanics work is that players can combine different assets, different collectibles in this case, to upgrade or create a new collectible. And this way we can always preserve a scarcity. So when we see that a collectible is being, lots of people have it, we can use that collectible to create new collectibles. And then the player has the agency to say, okay, do I want to keep a collectible that's going to be a vintage because not many people will have it, or do I want to create this new collectible? So they always keep the agency, but there's always this need for no matter which item in the marketplace.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. A lot of different strategies that you guys have worked upon to tackle all these problems. So yeah, moving ahead, Tanish, would you like to ask the next question?
Yeah, before actually asking the next question, I just wanted to add this to this. Like we ourselves have talked about gaming in particular in Web3 and how the onboarding process, the simpler it is, the better it is for users because they don't want to indulge in MetaMasks, wallets, and all, like you mentioned, the blockchain. So, yeah, that's actually great that you are making it easy for people. And like you mentioned, there are two businesses, the token one and the gaming company, right? And that's stuff we have already discussed 1v1, me and Sahil. So we know what you're talking about, and the things actually add up to a nice direction. And like you mentioned, how they started, how the founders started this. So I have a question regarding that because obviously everyone knows GFAL has some big names behind it, like Trip Hawkins and Manuel Sort, right? I just wanted to ask that what inspired them, and the team as a whole to create this GFAL, the big name GFAL, games for a
Yes,
living. Yeah.
games for a living, exactly. I think so. Seeing Manel and Chip talk is just an incredible experience. I'd recommend anyone to go and listen to anything they have to say because it's really an incredible experience. But that said, these are two industry veterans that have gone through the major shifts in the gaming industry. So think about this. They were there when we were buying boxed retail games, right? You bought them in the store. Trip was fighting with, I think it was Sega, to try to get the games in, had to pay them for the I didn't play console games when I was small, but like the discs that they had and all that
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
So they each had their little fights there, right? Then the free to play games started, and I remember Manel always telling this story of how it was so hard to make people understand that you could create revenue by having a free to play game when now it's the standard. Like we expect games to be free to play, right? And it was so hard to get that through in the beginning. So, and then obviously from free to play, they came to the games as a service. So games that initially they would have like DLCs and stuff like that. This was like the initial attempt to do games as a service, but obviously they evolved into more like battle passes or giving skins, seasonal skins and stuff like that. So adding content seasonally, basically. But yeah, now we are in a saturated industry, and that affects the user acquisition, as we were saying before. And I really want to illustrate this point, and I'm going to ask you guys a question. Okay, so how many games are hitting the market today? Can you guess the number?
I really don't have the idea, the exact number, but when I scroll through my consoles, I see thousands and hundreds and thousands of games every day. They're available on the PS Plus, on Nintendos, and also I don't realize that, but I guess the games are more than the players at this point. So yeah, a lot of games.
Yeah, exactly. And if you had to say just one name of one of those games that are released today, could you say it? Could you give me a name? Probably the
Today,
answer is no. Yeah, exactly. From the games being released today.
no idea.
Exactly. This is how hard it is to acquire users because we're all gamers here, and we probably cannot name one game that's being released today that we know it's being released today. So, yeah, that's a little bit how bad the industry is. So, for them, when they were looking into, okay, so what's the next big step? We've been through the retail games that we bought in boxes, we've been through the free to play, we've been through the games as a service. So, like, what's the next step in this saturated market? What's the next thing that we offer our gamers that is going to create the next standard in gaming? So I think for us is the Web3 technology at that time. What really got founders was the chance to create this new level of disruption through the ownership and the value that people could have through their assets that they earn inside the games, right? So what is GFAL doing different on this next step, next evolution, next whatever? We also are including the luxury games as a service. So you've probably heard about Diamond Dreams and what we're working on, but the essence of what Diamond Dreams is going to become and this series of games that we're going to eventually be coming is this luxury games as a service. So where in-game assets are the collectibles. They are not just like in-game assets, they are treated like art pieces, right? So this will bring collectibles to a whole new level that we are not currently seeing. Maybe we started seeing these early NFTs that they have this art piece sort of feeling, right? But this is going to be like the new standard in these games that are the luxury games as a service, where imagine that you can have like a Cartier watch or like something that has real value and that can be part of a legacy. So like you gift it to your children and stuff like that, but in collectibles, so in digital value.
Awesome. Makes a lot of sense. And the way you mentioned, like, it all popped off, the NFTs, digital collectibles in 2021. But then, like you said, whenever someone asks you, what are you doing? You're building a Web3 game. So people are like, oh, this is just pump and dump scheme. So I get the challenges. There are a lot of challenges. But, if industry veterans like Trip and Manil working on something and they have some idea, so we as the people can actually trust in them and like whatever they're doing. So yeah, makes a lot of sense. So yeah, just the way you mentioned about Diamond Dreams, so I actually have a add-on question to that, because
Mhm.
obviously everyone knows you guys are working on the Diamond Dreams, and you have also soft launched Elemental Raiders and Dead Zombie. So what can players and investors expect from these games? How do they tie into the larger GFAL ecosystem in the future?
Yeah. So obviously, I'll start with Diamond Dreams. Diamond Dreams has a vision to unify what's like luxury and technology. So like this meeting of these two worlds, because we've seen these in games before. It's not the first time we hear about these big brand luxury names involved in games. But if we think about it, for example, again, maybe I'm old school. I should talk about Fortnite, but I'm talking about League of Legends because yeah, age. But anyway, but there was a Tiffany collaboration with League of Legends that I had no idea it was Tiffany, because it was just like a skin for like Zarya and the vampire guy. I can't remember the name. But yeah, anyway, so I never really got to understand that it was that, because the luxury brand and that skin had nothing to do with one another, if that makes any sense. So we are actually providing a platform where these luxury brands can actually showcase their most valued and prized possessions, and the digital collectibles that are treated like this fine art and this fine jewelry that has never been seen before. So expect a very exclusive experience and a lot of elegance in the game, and also these collectibles that hold real value over time, that are more like a legacy than just like a collectible. And also think about this. Diamond Dreams has another big innovation. On one side, one thing that Match 3 games happen to have lost in a way is the personalization. If we look into probably the two biggest relevant Match 3 games in the market, Royal Match or Candy Crush, they don't have any personalization. In Royal Match, they added this building theme where you build your castle, and you can only choose the order in which you build the things. You can't really personalize anything. So with Diamond Dreams, we want to bring this personalization back, and you'll find the personalization in many little things inside the game, not just in the jewel recreation, which is actually something that I think will add a lot of value. And also it's very, very important, the social part in this game, and that's also something that we're working very hard on. That is also something that it's a little bit out of the usual Match 3 game, which is very exciting for us, to be honest. Then we have obviously Elemental Raiders and Dead Zombie. They are soft launch. That means that there are games that are still in process. We still want to do some changes in them. We still want to see better numbers. We still want to see, we think they can be improved. But by having them, we also see how different genres work with the Web3 space, which is also interesting, obviously, and how it all ties together with this true ownership that we're offering our players. Because we're actually creating something that's very, very cool with our ecosystem. That, and I want to also ask you another question, you guys. So the question is, what games do you play? Just give me like one game that you play. I assume you guys play video games, by the way.
Yeah, we do. We
Web
do.
2?
Yeah,
Okay.
Web 2 games? I'd go for Elden Ring. I'm playing Elden Ring these days.
Okay, yeah, Red Rings. And what else? What about you?
I'm mostly into sports games. So yeah, it's FC 25 and mostly these kind of games. 2K 24, 20, 25. These kind of games.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. So what is an hour worth of those games in time? So what is an hour of your game time worth in Elder Rings, for example? Do you know? Because your time
Uh,
is money, right? So you don't really know, or in Elder Rings, it might be different than it is in the sports game. There's no really standardization for that. But your time is money. That we know for sure. We've been hearing it
we're
forever.
wasting a lot of money then, if that's the case.
Yes, so this is where Web3 is actually changing a little bit the perspective. And with this true ownership, what we're doing is something pretty cool. We're not just giving you, so in the different games that we have, they all have the shared rarities. So there's rare, there's, like legendary in Elemental Raiders is going to be a legendary, in Diamond Dreams is going to be a legendary, in Dead Zombie, and so on and so forth. So what does this mean? That a legendary item means how much time that user has to spend in the game or has to have in the game before it acquires it. Right? So everything is back to how much time did you spend in the game. So imagine that you can do the following thing. Imagine that you start playing Elemental Raiders and I'm playing Diamond Dreams. And I want to see what Elemental Raiders is all about, but I don't want to start from zero because that kind of sucks. You're already level, I don't know what. So I kind of want to join you. So what we would do in this ecosystem is that I'd be able to redeem my hours in Diamond Dreams to actually be able to use them as hours in Elemental Raiders. So I can start from not zero, but from somewhere along the lines of where my friend is. So that makes it a lot more easy to give this ownership like another level of what does it give me? Where's my benefit as the player? And then obviously the fusion mechanics that we've talked about, it's also something that we can experiment on. So imagine that I'm a Diamond Dreams player, but I also like to play sometimes Elemental Raiders, and this new battle pass is out. And I really, really want this Reef, because Reef owns. So I really, really want this Reef. And I can actually consume Diamond Dreams collectibles to get that Reef, even though it's in another game, right? So this is where the interconnectiveness of GFAL and the ecosystem makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think your question was asking also like about investors and players. What's for that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So also about that, like a couple of key elements for investors and players alike. So longevity and interoperability of our collectibles, as I was saying, this is like one of the big important things. Collectibles will always remain relevant, and they will even be able to transfer the value throughout the games that we have in the ecosystem. So that's super, super important. Then there's seasonality, which is we will continuously have new content, and with the fusion mechanics, will ensure that collectibles don't become obsolete in any of the games. And also we have the GFAL token integration, which obviously is a utility token, and it's the currency that's used across the ecosystem, and it allows this peer-to-peer trading, which is also at the very, very core of GFAL.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess that was a great overview about, the games and what the gamers and the investors can expect. So, adding on to that question, I just want to know, what are your plans for this year? Like, what exciting plans does GFAL have for 2025? If the community could actually know it from you, it would be amazing. So, yeah, please, if you would like to.
Well, we're packed this 2025. We have a lot of things coming up, but basically we're focused on scaling up our existing titles, obviously, and then also having diamond teams on the forefront of 2025. That's essential. So what to expect? So Q1 will be influencer campaigns. We'll start working more with influencers in like a couple of months in this Q1. We will see a lot of sneak peeks of Diamond Dreams, and also we want to increase our community involvement with our own community and with other communities. So we're going to be working on that too. You're going to be seeing more of us. Then by spring, we're going to do the Diamond Dreams Heart Launch, and this is going to come with major partnerships and also marketing with different media levels. So we're not going to do only user acquisition. We're also working on doing marketing in a few different media channels and in other ways. So that's going to be very exciting. We're very excited about that. By summer and fall, we want to do a tournament where people actually fight to win real jewelry. And when I mean fight, I mean play. Obviously, we don't fight here. We don't condone violence. But anyway, and then we have the collaboration with luxury brands, which we are very, very excited about as well. And finally, by the end of the year, we'll have some VIP events. We'll do a whole refresh of Elemental Raiders that we're working on. When I say whole refresh, it's more like we are there's one thing with Elemental Raiders which we are concerned about, which is the board evolution. So when you play a game, there usually is a board evolution in that game. So you are able to see that you are progressing within the same fight, for example, and that things change, or that you're progressing in some way throughout the game. And that's something that needs a little bit of work in Elemental Raiders. So it's something that we'll release by the end of the year, but obviously we're starting to work on it now. So in short, 2025 is taking GFAL from just being like a vision, maybe, of because most people just saw what our founder team and the vision and the promise, to actually having this ecosystem, because we've built it, we've been able to make it secure and make it legal and all the issues, So now it's our time to shine. Really, 2025 is really time to shine for GFAL.
Awesome. So we can expect a big year for GFAL, the R Crypto Talk community. If you're watching this, of course you're watching this. So yeah, a big year for GFAL indeed, and we'll be excited to actually see your partnerships, like the big partnerships you mentioned. Please give us the spoilers beforehand, and so yeah, that would be amazing. And uh, yeah, that's more or less that, I guess. Sahil, would you want to ask something else?
I'd just like to scale the last question. You asked about 2025, and we've talked about long term a lot in this conversation. So I just like to scale the question and ask about the next, let us say, 5 to 10 years. Where do you see GFAL in the next 5 to 10 years, and what kind of modernization can we expect in the gaming industry that you guys bring onto the table?
Okay, so 5 to 10 years. I think the vision and the core mission is to make Web3 so easy that gamers just hardly even notice it. It's just like what a microtransaction is today for any mobile player. We want to make that happen. We're pioneering luxury meets technology approach with these collectibles, bringing them to this whole new level where they are perceived and valued as like an art piece would, or like a jewelry piece would. We're also experimenting a lot with ownership, as we were saying, adding this layer of like the interconnectedness between the games, but also we want to experiment on giving IP, so intellectual rights, to the people acquiring or collectibles, so they are able to create their own whatever merchandise, games, whatever they want with the intellectual properties that they collect from our collectibles. We also want to keep on building the ecosystem of games. So adding more games to the ecosystem makes a lot of sense, and expanding into new tech. AI is something that Diamond Dreams will come with. It's already something that we wanted to have. And we look forward to having more AI boosted or making it more exciting to play games, right? That's something that we are also looking for in 5 to 10 years for sure. And we also, in 5 to 10 years, we hope that GFAL is still going to be the utility token. It's still going to be the backbone powering these marketplace, powering this player-driven economy. So that's something that's very, very important for people to understand. We're not going to be releasing any other token. This is what it is. And since we've done so much homework in the regulatory front, we're pretty sure that GFAL is designed to adapt to any of the laws that will evolve in these 5 to 10 years, which probably are going to be a few. But we've done very, very good homework. We've established a very, very good legal framework for ourselves. So we're very confident in that point. So 5 to 10 years down the line, GFAL is going to be a game changer for like how games monetize, but not only monetize, but like how games coexist between other games in an ecosystem. That's going to be a first time to see. We're also one with this AI implementation that we do in our games to see more of this player-driven creativity and players being able to express themselves in ways that have never been seen before, because we've always been limited by the game itself, to put it this way. And with the real world luxury partnerships, we believe that collectibles will also, digital game assets will also be at another level. It will be perceived as something else, something that you would leave your child as like a legacy and stuff like that. So we're very excited to see that. Yeah, we're not just building games here. We're building a whole new culture around what it means to have a digital ownership.
Games for a living, as the name suggests, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so before we actually wrap up, I'd like to ask, what's the one thing you'd like to share with our community, the OCT community, about GFAL's, mission and how they can stay in the loop or get involved with what's coming next? Because we'd want them to actually, hear it from you straight away. So address them if you would like to. Yeah.
All right. So if I had to pick a punchline or like a core mission for GFAL, it will definitely be to bring richer experiences to players. Players have been with nothing exciting, nothing new for a long time. I think it's time to give them a little bit more agency and a little bit more value to their time, right? And obviously without the crypto jargon that they don't need to know about. And we also believe that video games can be more than just microtransactions. And if you have anyone in your community that believes that games should be more than just microtransactions, definitely have them come and join us in this journey, because that's what we're here for. And regarding on how to stay on the loop with us, we download our games, give us feedback on Elemental Raiders, give us feedback on Dead Zombie Idol. You can follow us on GFAL on Twitter. So that would be at GFAL_official. And then on our community channels, we have Discord and we have Telegram, again, GFAL official. And usually we share updates, sneak peeks, and you can just give us a DM if you want.
Awesome. So I'll include the links in the video down below. And thank you, Anna. Thank you, Anna, for joining us today. And I'm really sure we have a lot of gamers in our community who would be really excited to watch this video and actually, try out these games for themselves. So thank you once again for joining us today. And that'll be it, I guess.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Anna.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.